Welcome back. So let me just do a few things here because we can do this better than what we're doing right now. Right now we're sending a lot of single requests to read to the database because this is almost like a while loop or a for loop that goes in and says for each ID, go and convert it, go and grab the ID from the database. But the difference is that with the select statement I end up with something that can be turned into a list. So I end up with something called an IEnumerable. I haven't talked about that yet, an IEnumerable. What's that all about? Well, it's actually more powerful than a list because an IEnumerable is kind of a preparation to do something, right? So this is kind of a way for me to say, I want to prepare to convert this into something. I want to prepare to build a list of some kind. But the cool thing is, until I call toList, it's actually not executed yet. So I can actually do a dot here and do so many things. I can do union, I can do where, so I can actually start filtering the list before I actually make it into a list. I can continue building on this function until I'm actually ready to execute it by calling the toList. So why am I telling you guys this? Because we're going to build something new in the repository that can actually go in and return an IEnumerable of items, an IEnumerable of all the IDs that we have available in here, and we want to make it into an IEnumerable so that whenever we want to, we can actually say, I'm done. Fire a solution. So let me try and show you what I'm talking about here. Going into the iAddress repository first of all, because we're going to play around with making a new contract before we actually make an implementation. And I want the contract to return an IEnumerable, meaning this guy that is not a list yet, but can be turned into a list. And I want to call the function getAll by ID. So this is just a new function that can send in a list of ints, sending in all the IDs that we need from the addresses, right? And then it can return that list as an IEnumerable. Now just adding it to the interface means that I can actually start, before I implemented it, notice I haven't implemented this yet, I can actually start writing the code on how I should implement it. So we're going into the customer service, and now since the repository has this new get by IDs, let's try and change this around. I'll just keep this here so you guys can look at it if you want to use this solution instead. The goal is still to get some data into the customer address, right? But now since the unit of work has, with the address repository, one called get by ID, I can actually send these address IDs directly in here right away. There we go. So now we have those available. And now I can do the select on these guys just like we did before. I can say for each of the guys you find, select, and then here we're going to end up with an actual address, and that address is, we're going to use that address to convert it now. So we'll say a converter.convert, and then we'll convert each address. And now notice this statement right here is not done until we do a dot toList. There we go. And now we've done the same thing, but now we've kind of given the responsibility to the repository to figure out how we can, in the smartest way, get a list of addresses with a list of address IDs. And next lesson we'll just go and implement that and see that it all works. See you in the next lesson.